It's no secret that World War I was one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. But what may surprise you is just how deadly it was for those in the sky. With the advent of heavier-than-air flight, the ability to wage war in the skies was something that all belligerents were eager to utilize. Soon dogfights between enemy aircraft were raging above the trenches of Europe. Today we'll be taking a look at some of the most successful fighter pilots of this era, aka the aces of the First World War. But first, who were the top WWI aces? Well, the most famous, for sure, was German pilot Manfred von Richthofen, aka the Red Baron. He notched up an incredible 80 aerial victories during the war, making him the top-scoring fighter pilot for the Imperial German Army. And when he wasn't busy racking up victories, he was reportedly enjoying the finer things in life, such as smoking cigars, driving his Mercedes, and having affairs with showgirls. The Red Baron met his demise at being hit by Australian ace, Captain Roy Brown. While the top-scoring pilot was German, France actually produced the most aces with a total of 33. The best of the Frenchies was Georges Guynemer, who managed 20 victories. Guynemer was known as a daredevil, and would often perform aerial acrobatics for the amusement of those watching from the ground. He was eventually killed when he flew his plane into the sea after being hit by a German bomber. Italy had a total of 29 aces, with the top scoring being the fiery and temperamental, shall we say, Francesco De Angelis, who scored 15 victories. De Angelis was known as a reckless pilot who took part in some incredible aerial duels. One such example being his battle with Austrian ace Johann Benck. The two pilots fought each other to a draw after an incredible aerial ballet that has been described as the most beautiful fight ever seen. The British and the rest of the Commonwealth also had a number of aces, with the top scoring being Canadian Billy Bishop with 7 victories. Australia had 2 notable aces, with the highest scoring being Captain Roy Brown with 9 victories. It was Brown who shot down the Red Baron, and New Zealand also had 1 ace, albeit an honorary one, Richard Kingsford Smith, who scored 5 victories while flying for the Royal Naval Air Service. The United States didn't join the war until 1917. This didn't stop one of its servicemen from becoming an ace. Eddie Rickenbacker managed a remarkable 26 victories in just over a year of flying. Unfortunately, he was court-martialed and stripped of his rank and medals after making disparaging remarks about the U.S. Commander-in-Chief, General John J. Pershing. So now that we've met some of the top WWI aces, let us take a look at what it was like to fight in an aerial dogfight during the First World War, with the exception of a few massive battles. Fighting in the air was a very individual affair, with most aerial victories being achieved by single pilots taking on aircraft that were flying alone. Victories were usually achieved by driving the enemy plane out of the sky and shooting it down with your machine guns. Sometimes dogfights would break out, though, where several enemy planes would engage multiple friendly planes. These were normally the result of a bomber being sent to attack a location deep behind enemy lines, with several fighters providing cover. In this scenario, the enemy fighters would aim to take out the bombers, while the enemy bombers would aim to take out the enemy fighters so that they could complete their mission. Now, aerial dogfights wouldn't necessarily be decided by who had the most bullets, but rather by who had the better aim. This was because ammunition was limited in the air, with many pilots forced to land and wait for their guns to be reloaded after running out of bullets. As a result, dogfights could sometimes last for hours. The outcome of such engagements would more often than not come down to the skill of the individual pilots in their aircraft. Some planes were faster, some were more maneuverable. In general, dogfights were messy, chaotic affairs with both sides taking heavy losses. While there were instances of pilots being hit and surviving, this was quite rare. If a pilot was injured, there was little anyone could do but hope that they were able to land their plane safely. If they couldn't, well, they would die in the air and their plane would be lost. These aerial showdowns not only helped to shape the course of the war, but also laid the foundation for future generations of air warriors. So there you have it, some of the top WWI aces and a taste of what it was like to fight in an aerial dogfight during the First World War. Do you know of any other notable aces not mentioned here? Let us know in the comments below.